Alright, forgive me for my sins, but this is like hot off the press, so we're doing a webcam video. I know, horrific. The reason I'm so excited is because it feels like a Christmas day for me, because Performance Samples have released their Pacific Brass library. If you're looking for like an objective review of this product, this video probably will not be that because I am just a huge fan of the whole ethos of Performance Samples. So basically Pacific is a upcoming orchestral library. It's getting slowly released in each section of the orchestra. So as of about a week ago, they just released the Pacific Brass section. And this is a kind of a special moment for me because this is probably the most detailed just brass library I've ever gotten before. Up until basically now, I was using the brass section in BBCSO, which is very full featured. Gotta give it credit for that, but the overall sound of it is quite like dark and quite wet, very reverby. So I was on the lookout for something a bit drier and a bit brighter, which I think Performance Samples Brass pretty much fits the bill of. So looking at the patches you get, this is the full list here. One thing that's quite interesting is that basically for each section of the brass section of the orchestra, you get both these flutter sustains and normal sustains. They're not quite actually normal sustains though, because you will see here I have the two horns sustains loaded, and indeed it does play a long note if you hold down the keys, like so. However, I don't think it's really fair to call these sustains. I think they're kind of underselling it because if you do short notes, it will actually play different like staccato samples, which I think is pretty cool. So before I go under the hood on this one, I'm just going to show you how each of these instruments sound, just in a vacuum. So starting from the bottom, we have some bass trombones here. They actually go very high. Seems a bit loud to me. Let me just And for me, the thing that's nice about this compared to the BBC SO that I used before is the fact that you get way more control over the mics you use. So we have these close mics here, and you'll notice they have way less reverb. And you can combine those with the AB mics, or you can change the volume of either of them to kind of get your own mix, which I think is really nice. All right, moving up here, we have the tenor trombones. All right, AB mics. And now here's the CL, the close mics just by themselves. The other kind of things you can do under the hood is you can change the kind of velocity curve for the loudness of the samples. So if I really only wanted to hit like the quiet samples, I could do something like this. See, now I don't hear anything at all. Wait, what? Have I actually broken it? Oh no. Okay, maybe some bugs to iron out of that one. Okay, it's back. Oh, there you go. Okay. So now I can make it sound much quieter while still hitting the keys with the same amount of force, which if you're really into the music like I am sometimes can be useful, I think. I just realised I said we were going up in terms of register, but we didn't do the tubas yet, so let's get on it. I think they're at the bottom. I don't really know much about writing for brass, I hate to say it. That's the Inception thing. I love that progression. Yeah, the AB sound is like really reverby. I think ideally if I was doing it, I would want both of them, but maybe turn this down a bit, like be a bit wetter. It's pretty good. Okay, getting into the fun part, we got the horns, which I think probably the brass instrument I use the most. I feel like they always sound the most epic, like right out of the box. So let's see. Pretty fun. With the close mics. That to me sounds like such a classic like film score kind of sound. So good. And with the close mics. It's weird because if you listen to these close mics, you do hear a bit of a tail, but it's not like a really roomy, wet reverb. Right at the end of it, a little bit of a tail. And of course, I don't think we've talked about the solo contrabass trombone yet. Let's see what that sounds like. I probably shouldn't play chords on it since it's meant to be solo. Or maybe you could. That to me seems like a quieter or a drier sound on the AB mics. Let's test the close ones here. Interesting. And if you're interested in what the flutter sustains sound like, the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like a tremolo for the brass. I won't do it for all of them, but I'll show you what this sounds like. It's kind of like a slightly cartoony kind of old style flutter, I would say. Pretty fun. Yeah, and in terms of RAM usage, it seems to be fairly lightweight. Currently, I have just the horns, the main patch, loaded up, and that seems to be using, in addition to all the other like basic stuff on Reaper, it's the only track I have, 586 megabytes of RAM, which is really quite small in the scheme of things. So it's pretty nice to see. Alright, so is the library worth buying and like who is it for? This is a pretty hard question for me to answer just based off my first experience. For me, I feel like one of the more annoying parts of writing orchestral music is always having to, switch articulations, that kind of thing. I appreciate with this that like you can just play a note and whether you play a long or a short one, it kind of figures out what's right. Now, whether that means the legato is worse, I'm not sure. I think intuitively, like, you would have to imagine it would suffer because of that. But in terms of, like, the speed of being able to, like, get your ideas down, I think this is a real cool way to do it. I will admit it is not the most comprehensive brass library out there. If you compare it to even something like the core version of BBC SO, which is not only a brass library, it's the full orchestra experience. If we compare what is on offer for the horn, you can see on BBC SO, we just have like a lot more articulations, it seems. Even like really cool stuff like trills. That's not something you're going to find on the Pacific Brass. Is that a deal breaker? I feel like not necessarily. Like Pacific Brass gives you shorts, longs, and flutters, which are like the main building blocks that you're going to be using like 90% of the time anyway, but it is something to bear in mind, I think. Another thing you might want to think about is the price. There are a lot of different options, but the take home message with this pricing structure is that if you're ordering now during the intro period, which is about 4 months from now, you will qualify for this normal intro price here, the $239, which I think is what most people will go for. You can pay significantly less if you own any of Performance Samples' other products, or indeed a extra specially low price if you already own something like Pacific Strings or Pacific Solo Strings. That's all listed here. I think that feels to me like it compares pretty favorably. I think the main selling points of Pacific Brass is you get like a really impressive usable sound right out the box. You can literally just play it into the keyboard. It's snappy, it's quick. You don't have to fiddle around with articulations. And if you're somebody like me who has a full-time job, and is doing composing in their spare time, I think that's really valuable. I also think the sound is really stellar, and importantly, it's like quite a bit more customizable than what you would find in a lot of these beginner all-in-one libraries. The fact that you can go between that close and far mic is really useful, I think. In terms of realism, I think the sound is pretty great. You might be able to find maybe a better legato somewhere else, and you probably would be able to find a more variety of articulations in other libraries. But for $239, I think it's pretty great value if you want a brass library that is approachable and quick and easy to use. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Pacific Brass. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.